Hey guys, Joe here of the Joe Madden Sports Podcast. Happy Thursday. I'm joined this morning by Ron Kruck from Superbook, play-by-play for LFA, also host of Betting with Barbers. Welcome to the show.
Joe, it's so good to see you, and it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. You've got so many things that you're involved in that you're doing. I can't wait to hear about all of this. Let's get started with how you got into this industry.
Wow, a long story for sure. Been doing it for a long time. Went to school at the University of Colorado and got a degree in broadcast news journalism. Always knew I didn't know what I wanted to do for a living, Joe. So I thought if I could stay in the sports world, I'd be a happy guy. So I got that degree and started working at local TV stations. The big break was really working for Mark Cuban and going to HDNet and a first all high definition network, and working for Cuban was amazing. Covering boxing and the NHL and so many different sports. And then somehow in 2004, when the sport of mixed martial arts and the UFC was blowing up, they approached me and said, "Hey, Kruck, do you know anything about cage fighting?" I was like, "Yeah, the UFC, right?" Because it was born right here in Denver back in 1993. There's the program right there.
Love it.
And it was, I said, "Yeah." And they're like, "Okay, let's do it." And I started covering the UFC back then. And it's been an incredible run to cover them for a show called Inside MMA with Boss Rutan and Kenny Rice for 9 years. That progressed to doing play-by-play for the Legacy Fighting Alliance, which is the number one feeder league into the UFC. We've placed over 250 athletes into the UFC. And then involved with Superbook too. It's been such a blast being a part of the Superbook team, hosting the show Betting with the Barbers with Rondé and Tiki Barber, and doing a weekly betting show with them, which will kick off as the football season goes, and just providing content for them. We were at a big watch party in Denver last night for the Colorado Avalanche, and a little nervous, I'll be honest, Joe, a little nervous, but somehow they pulled it out last night. And that's where we're at. Just very blessed to have been working for so many great people. And now with Superbook, that trend continues.
What a phenomenal story into the industry. I love how many facets of the industry you are in and all the different things you're doing. Tell me what it was like the first time doing play-by-play. What's that experience like?
Yeah, I was always a more of a reporter, sideline reporter for baseball and then boxing and kickboxing with Glory Kickboxing, and then making that jump to play by play. That was a big one. It was an exciting time. We had a play-by-play guy, Michael Chavello from Australia, who was phenomenal. So there's your connection right there. He was the play-by-play man for HDNet Fights, and that was Mark Cuban's fight company. And I would do some work with him, and then when he decided to go back to Australia, the opportunity presented itself for me to move over into that chair. And yeah, at first it was, a different world for sure, being the one to carry a broadcast, especially in MMA for 2.5, 3.5 hours. And I've just been so lucky to work with some of the best in the color commentary world, with Pat Miletich, UFC Hall of Famer. These days, I work with so many different UFC fighters who are trying to break into the industry, from Michael Chiesa, former Strikeforce and WEC lightweight champion Gilbert Melendez, Alan Joban, so many talented people. They make my life easy, Joe. So all I got to do is call fights, and that's it's a pretty fun gig.
Yeah, that must be so much fun. And then dealing with those athletes. Some people look at fighters as, fighter image, but they're such down to earth, great guys.
That is so true. And getting into the sport of mixed martial arts was one of the most eye-opening experiences for me, was the perception of some of these fighters from, mainstream sports fans that, oh, these guys are just barroom brawlers. They're going to get off that bar stool and go in there and kick some ass in the cage. And it's not the case. I loved telling the stories of so many of these athletes so that people could understand that there are so intelligent intelligent fighters, and you in Canada had one of the most intelligent and most talented of all time in George St. Pierre.
Absolutely.
Such an incredible athlete, but so surreal in the way that he approached the sport as well. He was one of my favorites to cover, and then there were so many others that a guy locally here in Colorado. His name was Shane Carwin. He's now retired, but he fought Brock Lesnar for the UFC Heavyweight Championship. He had a great run, but he never gave up his day job, Joe. He was a mechanical engineer here in Colorado and worked for the Greeley, Colorado Water Department. And it was just such a funny world to talk and tell that story. Here's this big dude that would, go out and survey land as a mechanical engineer, and then he'd go in and he'd get in fights with Brock Lesnar. But it's been a very cool run to see and to be able to tell those stories of such incredible athletes.
Yeah, sounds like such a blessing what you get to do. I can hear your passion behind it. Where did that passion originally come from for the sports industry?
Great question. Always been a sports fan. And, a lot of kids growing up, their dads are the ones to kind of get them into the sports world. But it was my mom. My mom was a huge sports fan. She was a Brooklyn Dodger fan. We were originally from New York. So she raised us to pretty much hate the New York Yankees, and that has stuck with me to this day. We moved to Colorado when I was a kid, but I have always been, because Colorado never had a baseball team till the Rockies came in the 90s. So I have been, and I am always have been and will be a Mets fan, which not many people are out there can admit to that or want to admit to that. But so that's where it started. She was a huge sports fan. My grandpa, I think, was a big influence in getting me into combat sports. He was a huge boxing fan as well. And growing up, I had a good friend whose dad would get all the pay-per-views back in the day of Sugar Ray and Hagler and Hearns and all those guys. And that's really where the passion for combat sports started. And when the UFC came to Denver, 1993, UFC 1, I remember I was in college. That's how old I am. But they had I remember my buddies and I were like, we got to go check this out. There are no rules. We got to go. And then a snowstorm blew in, so we couldn't go, but we got the pay-per-view, pooled all our beer money together, and we got the pay-per-view. And then from there, I was hooked. I love the sport.
Absolutely. It's so funny you say pulling your beer money together back in college, because that's exactly how most people in college have to do it, to watch these fights. It's phenomenal, though. I love your story, Ron. Fast forward, you're with Superbook. How's it being with Superbook? You guys had an amazing watch party last night. We'll get into your Colorado Avalanche, but tell me what's going on for you at Superbook.
It's been a great addition to my resume to be a part of the Superbook team. Just a growing, as sports gambling continues to grow here in the United States. The Superbook team is just taking their time in getting to where they need to be. You see the DraftKings out there, and they're on every commercial there is. We are the anti-DraftKings. We are taking our time in getting where we need to be. We are live now in Colorado, Nevada, Arizona, New Jersey, and now Tennessee. Keep an eye on Iowa. There's a little insight for you. We're taking our time to get into these states. A lot of people don't know the Westgate and Superbook they've been around for so long, 20 plus years, and it's always been that way, that there's just a very family type feel to being a part of Superbook. So if you are a gambling fan and you're in one of these states, I suggest you give Superbook a try. They've got some great promotions going on, sign up specials, and they will continue to grow into the states as states begin to legalize sports gambling. But great team to be a part of. They're a lot of fun. And I not only with the Betting with the Barbers show, we get Tiki and Rondé's take on the NFL games, but I get to, as you know, with Jay Cornegay and John Murray, the guys behind the counter. No other sports books do you get to hear from the guys who are setting those lines. And I know that's why you have Jay on all the time, Joe. Because it's the insight from those guys is incredible. Why is Denver a 4.5 point favorite in Seattle as they open up the NFL season? They will break it down to why. And I love that side of gambling, to hear from the guys who are actually making the line. So check out superbook.com, sign up, download the app, and get in the game. It's a great group to be a part of.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. You guys have such a phenomenal team. I hope that one day you get across the border, get up here to Canada, because we definitely could use Superbook up here. The Super Contest, are you going to be entering this, Ron?
You know what, Joe? Pressure's on me now. We are discussing that as we speak. I have not been a part of it yet, and I want to. I think we're just trying to work through a couple things, but Rondé, Tiki, and myself might be joining into that contest this year. So there'll be a lot of pressure, but it's such an incredible contest that has gone on for so long. It's one of the, even if you don't know who Superbook is, a lot of people have heard about the Superbook contest and picking the games throughout the year to hopefully collect that $1 million. See, that's the problem, Joe. I mean, as an employee, do I get that $1 million if I win? I don't know. There are too many questions right now, but it's a lot of fun to be a part of, for sure.
But the bragging rights, rights alone to win it.
Good point. Good point.
It's back in the pod.
Just let me beat Tiki. That's all I care about. And Rondé too. Rondé can pick some games. I'm telling you, that guy knows his football. And me and Tiki are kind of just following his lead. But bragging rights would be key.
Absolutely. I do a lot of things for bragging rights, that's for sure, especially when I'm competing against my kids in my household. But tell me more about your show, Betting with the Barbers, what we can expect this fall for it.
Awesome. Yeah. Last year, it was just one of those things where Superbook signed. They wanted to get Tiki a part of this team, especially being in the New York and New Jersey area. And those two are just incredible talents and such fun personalities. So when I was given the opportunity, Kristen Mackey, who is the VP of marketing at Sportsbook, approached me about, hey, could you actually host this show, Betting with the Barbers? And I'm like, with Tiki and Rondé? Heck yeah, I'm 100% in. And it was so funny how it happened, Joe. They had another host, and then there was some contractual issues that happened. So they literally called me the night before the show, and I jumped at the opportunities. And it was a blast. We did a 30 to 40 minute podcast on picking our games, and then had, looking at futures in the NFL and other bets that you could make, props during the season. And this year we're going to come back strong. Follow Superbook on all social media at Superbook Sports. The guys are going to be making their picks. I will host that with them, and it'll be a lot more content coming out this year, especially on social media with our picks. We do fun segments like Bucket O Bets. We'll pick out some bets, and are you taking it? Are you not? Back to the Futures is always fun. And so keep an eye on Superbook Sports on all social media platforms. We're going to come out firing, hopefully doing our first show live, I believe in Tennessee as we go live out there. I think we're going to Nashville, so can't wait for that.
Going to Nashville. Love that, Ron. Let's quickly talk before I let you go here. We have game 6 for your Colorado Avalanche. Can they hoist the cup at home?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that that's going to be the case. Game 5. Let's not get. I would like them not to have to go to Game 6, Joe. For sure.
Sorry, Game 5.
Yeah, you know
6
what?
in my head. I've got a future ticket. It is Game 5.
I had to be the jerk to correct you. Sorry. No, it's it's a fun time here in Colorado. Back to being the jack of all trades. I covered the Avalanche back in 1996 when they won their first cup, and always felt bad because they were the Quebec Nordiques, and they left Quebec, came to Denver, and the first year they're here, they win the cup. So I was a part of that incredible run, and there are so many similarities to that team, Joe, with this new generation of Avalanche. But the one glaring issue is no Patrick Waugh in goal, and that is the biggest difference that I see between these two teams. And Darcy Kemper, after he gave up that goal early into under a minute into the game, I was like, oh, wow, they're going to pull him. They are going to pull him. And he stepped up in a massive way last night, and the defense was better. The Avalanche put it on Tampa Bay. Great team. What a legacy they've had. It's so tough to win 2 cups in a row. Well, 1 cup, 2 cups in a row, and they're going for 3. So incredible team. I know they're upset in Tampa today, Joe, because there's some issues that were there too many men on the ice as they scored that winning goal. He was pretty close to the bench. So I think you got to give it to him. But yes, I think the Avalanche are going to come back. Look at superbook.com if you want to bet not only on the game, but the futures for the Stanley Cup, who will hoist that Lord Stanley's Cup. And I'm feeling pretty good. It's a good feeling here in Colorado today that the Avalanche are in a pretty nice spot to be in.
Absolutely. Anything special happening at Superbook for it?
Yeah, we are going to have another watch party. If you're in Denver, get down to the Blake Street Tavern, one of the great sports bars here in Colorado, Joe. You got to get out here and get to the Blake Street Tavern right next to Coors Field, even when the Rockies aren't winning, which is most of the time. Great place to go. And then we're going to have a great, huge watch party there on Friday night. With the possibility to close out and win their first Stanley Cup in 21 years. There's going to be a party. You should talk to your producer. Get out here for this one.
Oh, most definitely. It's going to be insane down there. I wish you all the best. I really do hope the Avs hoist that cup on Friday night. Ron, I want to thank you so much for joining me here. Can you let everyone know where to follow you on socials?
Of course, Joe, it was my pleasure. You can follow me on Twitter. I am at @Kruck, @KRUCK, and on Instagram, Krucker7, KRUCKER7. And of course, follow Superbook as well at Superbook Sports on all social medias. Joe, pleasure. I'd love to come on again.
I'd love to have you on again, Ron. Thank you so much, you guys. I'll be back at the top of the hour with another Joe Madden Sports podcast. Ron, have a phenomenal day.
Take care, Joe.
Thank you.